Hello and welcome to Indies on Indie. Happy New Year! I'm currently recording this in my living room, while in the kitchen I'm cooking up some delicious black-eyed peas for good luck and prosperity. If you don't know, usually I have a room set up in the basement for this podcast, but everything downstairs is in a state of chaos right now. We wrapped the way it goes. We've been working on this project for 16 months, and now principal photography is finished. I'm honestly going to miss playing Todd. It's so much fun to be someone that's not at all like yourself, and me and Todd are completely different people. Or maybe you might think we're the exact same person. Who knows? You'll see it someday, I hope. I'm very excited for you to see this film. And the final day of shooting, we ended up needing to build a set in our garage for the location. And to clear out that space, the stuff kind of ended up invading the podcast space. Also, you can now buy the award-winning comedy Mr. Lee on Blu-ray from ixfilmproductions.com. That's like a ad for my own work, I guess. I can't even explain how cool it is to hold my own film in my hands. And I posted a picture of Mr. Lee on Blu-ray sitting on this bookshelf that I have with a handful of films that inspire me. I posted that onto Instagram, and it was really quickly, actually. It was liked by Seth Rogen and Mark Duplass. That doesn't really mean anything that they liked my Instagram post, but it felt good because like I'm working to be part of that same circle as that they're in, and in that moment it really felt like I was. Like I said, you can buy Mr. Lee on Blu-ray at ixfilmproductions.com. It's currently on sale for $10 for a limited time. That's a super great deal. It's a steal for a Blu-ray. So get it while it's cheap. Now, I met today's guest at the Doc Sunbeck Film Festival in Mulvane, Kansas. And I absolutely love this festival. It's one of my favorites. And if you're a filmmaker listening to this, they're taking submissions right now. So go submit. You'll have a great time at the festival. I'm sure of it. He was showing his film Dust, Blood, and Fire and gearing up to film his next film, Exposure, which is out now. You can watch it on Showtime. You can stream it. I streamed it through the Hulu app. There's the Showtime extension. That's cool. Like, you've got it, man. That's cool. And just so you know, we do talk about the film Exposure quite a lot in this interview, and there are spoilers. You've been warned. I don't want you to get mad at me if you hear a spoiler and you were going to watch it. So, like, if you planned on watching it and you care about spoilers, go watch it first, then come back. Don't comment at me all mad because I ruined the movie or anything. If you don't care, just keep listening. You'll hear it, and maybe you'll get excited to go watch this movie because it is pretty cool. Also, I'll let you know right now, Exposure does have an appearance in it from an icon within the horror genre, Lynn Lowry, and we talk about what it was like to work with her, and I just want to admit, I messed up. When I bring her up in conversation, I messed her name up. And I could have cut it out. I could have made me seem a little bit smarter, but I'll admit to you right now that I'm not, and I'm not afraid to admit that, and I didn't want it to affect the flow of the conversation, and there you go. You'll get to hear me look kind of stupid, but it's not a big deal. I'll admit horror isn't my regular genre, and I flubbed the name. That's totally my fault. But now, without further ado, here is me and Austin Snell.
Hank?
Yeah, Hank.
Great name for that dog. That's definitely a Hank.
He's named after Beast in X-Men.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And our cats are named after DC characters.
How many are there?
3. 4.
Okay.
3 named after DC characters.
What are they?
We've got Bruce Wayne, Selena Kyle, Dick Grayson, and then the 4th doesn't match. He's
like
Sky.
that you name them their people names and the full people names.
Oh yeah.
It's not Batman or it's the full human name.
Well, it started with Selena. She was our first cat, and she was a female cat, and I was like, oh man, it would be so cute if we named her after Catwoman.
Right.
That would make me really happy and think it was cute, and it was.
Uh-huh.
And then we got a second cat. He was huge, and he's a male, and we're like, oh fuck, cutest thing to do is we've got a Selena Kyle cat. We should have a Batman cat to match.
You got to, yeah.
Yeah, and then the third cat, he didn't seem to fit the Batman mythos, so we named him just Sky. That's his name. Lolo named him. And then the 4th cat we only got because we were fostering kittens, and Bruce like attached to this kitten insanely. So we're like, oh, well, he's Dick Grayson then.
Oh,
like he's obviously he's Robin.
that's cute. What set the other cat apart that you're like, this is not a DC cat?
He just didn't feel he looks like an alien.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
he's a cute cat, but if you like lock eyes with him, you're like, oh, you're not from Earth.
Maybe it's John Jones.
Maybe.
Or,
He's Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, it could be Clark Kent.
All these great names we could have gone with.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry you
It's
weren't
okay.
you weren't there in the naming process.
I'm sorry too.
You can put it on this table.
Okay,
it's
cool.
fine. Yeah.
It's metal. I didn't know if it'd make a terrible sound.
It makes a noise, but life goes on.
Yeah, it's true.
We're here. We've got the dog clashing
Yeah,
around.
it makes a sound too.
Yeah.
Don't you, bud?
So how long have you and your wife been together? If you have a 6-year-old dog together.
5 years, just
Oh, okay.
recently. Yeah.
So the dog was before the wife.
Yeah. We were living together at that point, but
Okay.
yeah. We were engaged when we got the dog, and he was like
Awesome.
a newborn when we
Oh,
got
that's
him, so
cute. So he's like your relationship.
He's like our baby. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
baby dog.
Yeah. We got him when we got engaged. Like
So how old is
2
he now?
weeks later. He wasn't a puppy, so he's probably 5 because we've been together for 4 years now.
Okay.
I think. I don't know how long I've been married. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's been time.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
4 or 5 or a 9er.
Yeah. I know it's under 5, but it's more than 2.
You just gotta, yeah. It's every 5 years, I think, is the big ones.
Yeah.
Just until you get to 20, and then you're
And
to
you,
10s.
you can just quit caring.
I think you can go to 10s when
Oh,
you get
okay.
to 20. You don't need to do like 25, 35. You can just do like 20, 30, 40.
Awesome. So when did
That's
you...
my plan, at least.
I like
I'm sure
it.
it's approved by
I'm-
my wife, too.
I'm gonna go for it, and if my wife doesn't like it, I'll be like, Austin said so.
Yeah.
Is that gonna
Yeah.
work?
No, everyone should adopt that to justify everything.
If they don't like it, well, Austin said so.
Yeah, because I
So-
probably did.
Awesome. So this is Exposure's your 3rd feature though, because I was trying to stalk you on IMDb. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Is it 3? Because I know I've seen Dust, Blood, and Fire.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Okay.
The first 2 were, I keep calling them more like my student films.
Okay.
The first one was called Erasure, and that was a like no budget. I had a DSLR.
Were
at the
you a
time.
student?
No, I was never a film student.
Okay.
So that's why like I called them student films, but like not really. They were the films I learned.
You learned.
Yeah,
making those
exactly.
films.
So that was really low budget. Like we barely had a light kit. I mean, it shows it's really rough, but that was the first thing I had filmed in a few years since I stopped doing stuff in high school. Like me and my friends made films all the time.
So that's where it
together in
started for you, was high school?
Yeah, high school for sure. Well, no, it started. I don't know when it started. I always did it, and then in high school,
Oh,
I
really?
just had friends who would do it with
Where'd
me.
you get a camera?
There was always a VHS camera around in the house, whether it was my grandpa's or my dad's or.
Were they like
and then
family
Hi8 came
video
along. Yeah.
people? Yeah.
Yeah. And my grandpa wanted to be a filmmaker as well. There's a lot of photographers
really?
in my family, so I think just filmmaking.
in your blood.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
So did he like bring you up like watching movies together?
My grandfather?
Yeah.
He dubbed a lot of movies to tape that were like, classics that I got introduced to via him.
Oh, okay.
Like, I remember he dubbed a lot of the Indiana Jones movies I saw for the first time through him.
Okay.
He introduced me to Godzilla, which is still like a lifelong obsession.
I
and
mean,
love.
you made an Exposure shirt that looks like a Godzilla shirt.
Yeah. That's that kind of like faux import thing is really big right now. But so I don't know when it started. It's just kind of always been a thing. But when I got to high school is when I just found other people who would do it with me.
you.
Yeah.
This is in Topeka, right?
Mm-hmm.
You grew up in Topeka?
Yeah.
Whole life in Topeka?
Yeah, until I went to college.
Okay.
So then when I went to college, I was an English major, not a film major.
Same. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was just wanting to do some other stuff.
Where'd
for a
you
minute.
go?
KU.
Okay. I went to Pitt State.
Okay.
But
Right on.
yeah, I did the exact same thing. I went English major. Did you drop out like me, or did you finish it?
Yes.
Oh,
no,
cool.
Immediately. You
Perfect.
guys, are we in the same?
Yeah,
no,
exact same.
We are awesome English majors.
Yeah.
So yeah, I lasted just like 1 year.
Exact
for you.
same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was really just, I think I wanted to hone my writing
Yeah.
and just also have the college experience. and it became very clear that like neither of those were worth the price tag when I already like had a skill set because I was working as a PA on commercial shoots through high school.
Oh, wow.
So-
How did you get on commercial shoots in high school? Like, how did that...
I was making goofy movies with my friends in high school.
Yeah.
And with enough
Were
frequency.
they narrative films?
Yeah. I still have all of them too, thankfully. But or at least most of them. I think I lost maybe one
Was
or
the
two.
goal at the time, because like YouTube was just like a thing, just
Yeah, that wasn't a
barely.
thing. So they're all on
Okay.
DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube kind of caught on right when we were like that, when things were kind of like winding
Because you're
down.
a bit older than me, right? what-
I just turned 30.
Okay, so just barely.
okay.
4 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were kind of right before all that.
Yeah.
There were people like, there were forums where like indie filmmakers would talk about stuff and share their movies, but
Yeah.
like you had to download them
Yeah.
like a QuickTime file, and there was no
it was
way
just hard to find as porn.
Yeah. Or they'd be like, yeah, you can get it on LimeWire if you search for it or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of fell off. I went to college, and then Erasure was the first thing that I made since then. Like just totally cold walking back into
Was
it.
that after dropping out?
Yeah,
So you dropped out and you're like, I'm going to make a fucking movie.
exactly.
I'm
yeah.
just gonna do it.
I'm just gonna try it, and it's gonna be terrible, but I just need to do one so I can do it.
Yeah.
again and see if I even can, and if I can tell
Why-
that long of a story too, because I'd never done a feature.
Yeah. Why didn't you do KU Film School? If KU is where you were going.
I had heard it was more theory than hands-on, and I was already getting sometimes paid to do hands-on. So, and I owned a couple 16mm film cameras, and I had access to some decent digital gear as well. So it was just kind of like, well, that sounds like paying a lot of money to do less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And theory's great, and I would love to know that stuff, but
But also, if you're like self-motivated, which obviously you are, you've created feature films, you can read a lot of
Exactly.
theory in a book,
That's
and
in a
you can
book.
learn theory from watching. Like, I love the Tarantino quote, I didn't go to film school, I went to films.
yeah, and our generation had DVD bonus features.
Yes.
Because that's like I'd say 90% of what I apply is probably
Stuff you learn from,
you
Special
can trace back to
features.
bonus features.
yeah. Because
And
that's
nobody had that before.
they're teaching you how to make a movie.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You get like snippets and you can kind of put it together in your head.
And there's some really good ones out there. Like
Yeah?
Bruce Campbell's solo commentary on a particular release of Evil Dead is just like it's better than any college course you could get. Just,
Really?
The kind of hands-on gritty knowledge of how they did all these, special effects shots and stuff, and just hearing about the suffering and stuff is like, I feel like that's way more valuable than,
yeah.
most theory you're going to get. Because at the end of the day, it's about like getting the shots.
I mean, have you read Rodriguez's Rebel Without a
Yeah.
Cause?
Yeah.
That book is like, that's film school. That's all you need. Just read that
totally.
book.
Just there's like 10 books you need to read, and then just go make something instead of paying for film school.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about it. But
I agree. So you wrote and directed Exposure? Or not Exposure, what was the first one? Erasure.
Erasure, yeah.
Erasure. Sorry,
They
the
do.
E's,
No, they totally sound similar too.
the E's messed me up.
But
I'll
yeah,
edit that out.
I
I'll
wrote,
sound smarter.
I wrote that one. I did pretty much everything on that one. I think I had a couple people stepping in and out to like hold a boom every now and then when
Yeah.
they could. It was a one-man crew pretty often.
Wow.
But
That's the benefit of like me and Lolo being a pair, is that we always at least have 2 crew members.
no, that's got to help. And I've got some, people who have been with me since high school who definitely show up when they can.
Yeah.
But it's a big commitment, as you know, and if people aren't getting paid, that's
Yeah.
a big ask. So, that was just kind of a run and gun, real small thing to see if I could still do it.
And it was like, I think runtime is what, an hour and some change?
It's
Am
like
I
an
right?
hour 15, I
Yeah.
think, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
What did you do with it once you'd made it?
I submitted it to a couple festivals, not really understanding that world very well.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you make your first film, especially I think our generation, I think we were told you made a movie and you sent it to Sundance and then you're Robert Rodriguez, you're Kevin Smith, like you're Linklater,
Right.
because it worked for all of them. But unfortunately, by the time we were making movies, the market had oversaturated because of digital film. Anyone could make a movie, and so you can't just get into Sundance anymore. And so, like, I think a lot of us made a movie with like, oh, we'll go to Sundance.
Right.
Is that what your like expectation? Because that was
yeah,
me.
you're very close. I think
Yeah.
we were aiming a little more locally. That I at least wanted Tallgrass.
Yeah.
That was my big aim. But Tallgrass has exploded over the last few years. It's
so
it's
hard to
pretty
get
big
into.
deal. And I'm also just finding, even with Exposure, which had a name in it, and was doing decently in other places, that was still really, really, really difficult to get into festivals as well. And I think this it might be a who you know type thing.
Yeah.
And I just would rather take that money that goes to fees and all that stuff and maybe apply it going directly to a consumer, unless I'm trying to make like a prestige art film that I'm taking to festival, for that type of thing. But for what I'm doing, like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense,
Yeah.
But yeah, we tried that with Erasure. I submitted it to some festivals that were probably just like, out of our league.
Did it get into any?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And really, in hindsight, this was the most valuable thing about making it. It really didn't deserve to. It was not, well, like, the mistakes were totally on me. Like, it was a big learning experience.
That's what each of those early films are. I mean, we've made, we're on 6 right now, and I still feel like each one is been its own year of school.
Yeah, totally.
Like, each of them is about learning.
And so that was valuable.
What did you learn on Erasure? What was something that you feel like is like the big takeaway from that project?
I was so concerned with just getting it done and making a narrative that was just coherent.
Yeah.
That putting much thought into production quality or the artistry, the finer stuff of it, the things that make it a good movie.
Yeah.
Kind of fell by the
You're
wayside.
like, I have to get these two saying these lines.
Yeah, like these two scenes next to each other just have to flow in this way for the story to even make sense. Like, I'm working at it at that base level. Like, I just want it to make sense from A to B to C, So, and that has to happen. Like, I had to learn to lay that groundwork. And I think it was kind of a shock too, because it was probably just my younger high school ego at work that I was like, oh, I thought I was better at this. Like, why isn't this a better movie? And also that just happens to me every time. Like, at the end of everything, I'm my harshest critic for sure.
Always.
But, yeah.
And you always will be. But that's because
if you want to grow,
true,
you have to at least have some sort of objective view of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the moment you quit thinking what you made has any errors, you should quit, because you're not going to get any better. If you make a film and you're like, yep, that one's perfect, I didn't fail at all, it's probably got the most failures.
Yeah, that's silly. That doesn't exist.
Yeah. So you made Erasure, and it taught you how to make a film. And then did you immediately go right into Dust, Blood, and Fire, or did it...
Yeah, pretty quick. And that was me kind of swinging hard in the other direction. That's a pretty, looking back on it, if I were to be hard on myself again, I'd say that's a pretty, like, indulgent,
It's meticulous to do a period piece like that.
It is very... There was certainly that. There's also just kind of, a lot of, like, long takes of nature and vistas, and, it's very kind of moody. And I think that was me trying to compensate for the last thing where I didn't take any time to do that,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the learning experience in the other direction.
Were you Sunrunner Films by this point?
No.
When did Sunrunner become...
That came with Exposure.
Did it?
That
Okay.
came kind of at a necessity because we had to keep track of our finances because we were kind of legitimizing with Exposure.
Yeah.
At this point, it was still just like what I or people involved with the film wanted to
call
donate
yourselves
to help pay for
and
stuff.
Financially, it was just you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And there was Aaron McGinnis and Robin Bonsall were producers on that too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And they're in the film.
Okay. And then, because Dust, Blood, and Fire, it also, I mean, it's a period piece, and you used you talked about this at Doc Sunback. The town, the locations in it is a historical site.
Yeah.
Did they help you at all with making that film, or just
Yeah,
they gave
were
you the
very
space?
very open to it. I had to go to the court to get permission from
Wow.
the county because it's not theirs to just
Yeah.
the people who run the park. It's not theirs to just let us waltz in there. We had to get approval from the court. So that was kind of an ordeal, and we had to get insurance and stuff. So that was the first time where I had to legitimize in that way too, because everything else prior to this had been
Run and gun,
yeah,
just asking favors.
this person said I could do this now, so we'll do it now. And
yeah.
but we got to be out in a couple hours, and if something breaks, like, oh shit, you know, that's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So this was the first time that we had to go through that work too, which was another helpful exercise.
Yeah.
And just
Starting to
good
learn the
practice
business end.
Yeah. And these two movies kind of together, like I said, working as my film school, coalesced into having the functioning knowledge to move on to make Exposure.
Yeah. So with Dust, Blood, and Fire, did you write it knowing that location? Did you see the location and were inspired by it, or?
I wrote it. No, I just wrote it. And then we went out looking for places that could work for what I had in mind.
And there just happened to be one in Kansas?
The script changed once I found out they might be cool with it. There were a couple places I had in mind, and basically I was going to cater the script to the one that said yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
As you do when you don't have money to get whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So what have you done with those two films now? Are they just kind of
that one I
dead?
sent to some festivals, and Doc Sunback was the only one that bit.
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm trying to remember how many it was. It was a lot of the free ones.
Yeah.
Too, which is kind of
is nice.
It's nice, but also, I mean, everyone is going to submit to the free ones.
True.
So, it was nice to do Doc Sunback though. To do a local one.
Have the nice screening.
And meet
that's
some
how
people like
we
you.
met. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that movie still just kind of it you can see that that's a fledgling voice still kind of finding its way. And also there was a point after making that I realized I didn't want to make that type of movie.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
I wanted to make movies like Exposure, movies that excited me when I was in high school and first figuring out kind of like what low budget meant and what indie meant. And my avenue, you know, through there was horror. Yeah. Movies like Evil Dead and Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and basically anything where it's just a few guys with a little bit of money in one location, like trying real hard to make something that they can sell, you know, for not much money. And that's just really inspiring to me, and was the first time that I saw a movie where, I'm talking about Evil Dead in particular here, that you could kind of see the strings and you'd be like, oh, humans made this. Like, this is kind of, it's still engaging, but like it's got enough rough edges on it.
That, you know, like someone created this art piece.
Yeah, and it wasn't a massive studio. Like some people made this thing. And that is what made me fall in love with filmmaking as opposed to just enjoying movies.
Got it.
So I kind of had this realization that like, I think moving forward, I need to like go back to the thing that got me excited when I was like a sophomore in high school.
So you want to make movies that inspire people to make movies.
I want to make the movies that would have inspired the 16-year-old version of me, at least, for sure. Like, and that's a lot of practical effects based, low budget horror stuff.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And it just feels like comfort food to me. Like, and the fun has come back since I had that realization. Like, Dust, Blood, and Fire was very rewarding, and I learned a lot. But it also
felt like work.
It was a lot of work. Yeah. And Exposure was a lot of work. It was the most work, but it didn't feel nearly as much like it.
It's funny that like obviously filmmaking is a career that we all aspire to be like as our main career. But it's funny that we've picked kind of a hobby or a passion in a thing that is some people's day job. You know what I mean? We're like,
Yeah.
all right, so I've got this weekend free. I'm going to spend the whole weekend doing 2 12-hour shoots and sleep for like 3 hours. It'll be great. Like, this is the fun thing I'm choosing to do. I'm
Yeah.
choosing to do more work.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Have you done a consecutive, like, we're filming for like 2 weeks solid type shoot yet?
I wish.
It's
but
crazy.
no.
That was a big change, like big game changer for me
For
too.
exposure.
Yeah.
What do you feel that you got from that? Like, what was?
You get in the zone.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that, like, I got 50 times better, but like I was just faster. Like I knew what I wanted. Like it was all on the tip of my tongue more
Yeah.
because I was just in the movie. We were breathing it, sleeping it, eating it, and it's just so easy when you're low budget and like how I've done before, and I'm sure you have to do. You will film like, oh, well, it's Saturday, and then in a week and a half we'll reconvene, and by then you're kind of just, a lot's happened.
Yes.
It's hard to be consistent.
I mean, even like between projects, because it takes so long to like get a project up on its feet. So like you finish one, we'll go into editing, we'll edit a whole project. And then when we get back on set the first day, I'm like, do I remember how to make movie?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, all right, so that's a camera. Those are, okay, cool. I can figure this out.
I vaguely remember something like this. Yeah.
I've done something similar to this before, right?
It was really cool to be able to legitimately break up like, all right, we are in production now, and then we are in post. And I've never had that before. It's always been like, we'll shoot a bit, we'll edit a bit, shoot a bit, edit a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like the way it goes right now, we've got 3 shoot days left, but we've also got 3/4 of the movie edited because we're editing as we go, and then we shoot. We had like 2 shoot days last month because that's when our actors were free.
That does have its advantages, though.
Yeah, because we are seeing it as we're creating it, and like we have some locations that we only had for limited amounts of time, and we had the benefit of we had a week in between the last time we were in the location and then the final day we got to be there.
Yeah.
So we had that week and we're like, all right, we're going to edit everything in that location. And then we got to look at it. We watched it all and we're like, yeah, we have the shots. This isn't a perfect edit, but we've got the shots we need. Cool. And then we can move on. So that's nice.
It's still malleable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a freaky thing about filming a movie in the cabin in the woods, not at home. Because when it's over, like...
You can't go back to the cabin.
Like, that's over. Unless we're going to drop a few more grand. Like, that's, hopefully you got all your shots. Otherwise...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so this was... exposure was a much different experience for you. Am I correct? In the fact that you had a good amount of budget.
Yeah.
You rented your location. It was a Airbnb, right?
It was, yeah.
How easy was that conversation with an Airbnb?
I didn't personally have it. Our producer did, and my business partner, Clayton Ashley, who I run Sunrunner with, and he financed the film too, largely. Jake Jackson also helped finance it.
Awesome.
So when we knew we were going to make a cabin in the woods type horror movie, the notion of renting a Airbnb cabin came up pretty quick. I don't remember who first mentioned it, but I think it's because we were staying in an Airbnb in Colorado at the time. We could
just shoot it right here, right now.
No, exactly. We were on a writer's retreat going like, all right, so we have X amount of dollars. We want to make something and see if we can sell it. That was the goal. That's how this all started, was just like, can we turn X amount of dollars into a larger amount and also have a movie in the process?
Can we turn X into at least X and a little bit?
2 X's in a movie.
Yeah.
And we rented this cabin as a writer's retreat, and we're just kicking ideas around, and it quickly came out. We were like, well, we love being in Colorado together. This is our favorite place to be. Airbnb is so convenient. Let's just do this because we like being here. And then if nothing else, like,
we were in Colorado
where we want to hang out. So that's how that came about.
So did you visit Colorado a bunch before, or was it like...
I go there all the time. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's just like one state over. And I just love it.
And from
there.
Topeka, because that's where you're not based there anymore, but that's where you've been based for a really long time.
Yeah. I moved to Lawrence for college when I was 18, and I haven't left.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I've been there for like 12 years now.
I thought you were in Topeka this whole time.
No, that's totally understandable though, because I feel like the talent pool for actors that I pull from is like 99% Topekan. They have
Why do you think that is?
Well, I did grow up there.
Okay.
So like
True.
I met actors when I was making my high school films and stuff that I maintain relationships with still. But the Topeka Civic Theater is just like a really large group of people, and I know a lot of them now.
Yeah.
Through various short films and stuff in the past. So
because that's where both of your leads are from as well, right? They're both from Topeka.
In Exposure,
Yeah.
Carmen is. Owen is. I know he's from Emporia. I'm pretty sure I don't know if he was born there or not, but I know he
Okay.
kind of is from that area because he
Kansas
was their
native.
Yeah. He was their college mascot there.
Okay.
And that's initially kind of how he's also an actor too, obviously.
Yeah.
But we talked to him about being the creature in the film, the monster by the end, because we knew he could handle
being covered in stuff.
That's no walk in the park, all that makeup.
How heavy was that suit in the end? Do you know?
I know someone told me at one point. It's not light.
Yeah.
It's not terrible either, though, because
Okay.
it's foam. The worst part isn't so much the weight, but
The
the
heat.
and that your skin is, you
Can't breathe.
Can't breathe, yeah.
Yeah.
And that he had a lot of the weight was like on his head, and he had fake teeth in and stuff. So, and
Which, how many days did you actually have him in that outfit?
in the suit,
Yeah, in that suit.
only
It's
2.
only okay.
Because it was a ton of time.
Yeah.
And, when you're up there for just a short amount of time for the entirety of the shoot, like the clock is ticking, and you don't want to spend every day just waiting on someone to be on makeup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we cut that down to just 2 days where he'd be in the full creature suit. It was also a budgetary concern
Yeah.
because that thing falls apart pretty quickly after you do
Use
the stuff
it.
we
Yeah.
did to it. So yeah, we only did that 2 times.
So that was obviously a big part of your budget was making that creature, right? And designing that creature. And
Yeah, and
where did you find the guy who did that?
well, Jake is also from Topeka, Jake Jackson.
Okay.
And he worked on.
See, this is why I think you live in Topeka.
No, again, totally fair. Because I really can't think of any connections in the town I live in that I film with. I just drive home to
I should have
Lawrence.
had you on sooner. I literally, when I met you at Doc Sunback, I was like, I should have him on, but he lives all the way out in Topeka, and he probably
another
doesn't want to
30 minutes
drive
away.
here. And so, like, I was like, and then I
I'm
realized
half an hour from here.
you lived in Lawrence. I was like,
No.
oh shit, he's 35 minutes. Yeah.
I'm even on the east side. I'm on like the Prairie Park neighborhood.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're right. And I'm the west side of the Kansas City area.
We could do this every night, man. But yeah, Jake worked on Erasure with me for one night
Oh, okay.
because we had a really complex makeup thing we wanted, and I heard that there was this guy in town who's really good. Particularly, he really likes horror movies. So he shows up to assist our main makeup artist that night with this complex thing. And while he's working, I'm listening to him talk, and his work is really, really, really impressive. And we kind of have the same taste in movies, and we're kind of vibing. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, this is cool. And that was it. And I didn't hear from him for a while. And then I started doing Dust, Blood, and Fire.
Yeah.
And he came to mind when I was thinking about getting a makeup person for the film.
Yeah,
So-
because I mean, that movie has so much in it. There's so much that you had to think about to make that movie. It's insane.
Yeah, and the subtle makeup in that one was he did a really good job with. Just like making people look dirty in a way that's convincing and not
Not over the top.
Yeah, there was days where he couldn't show up and I had to do it, and it's clearly like on those days it's awful. But so he did the makeup on that, and while we were working on that, I just got to know him a little bit better. We talked about movies a lot again, and again, horror came up a lot.
Yeah.
He's a big horror fanatic.
And you're like, I'm doing this thing.
Well, I didn't know that yet.
Oh, really?
And we went on our writer's retreat, and we were like, well, what about a horror movie? Because we know that. We used to do that in high school. That was our bread and butter then. Like, let's make the movie we would have loved when we were sophomores.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I know this dude.
He loves horror movies.
Who loves horror movies, and what if we committed to like doing a practical effects thing And
like those classics like Evil
yeah,
Dead.
yeah, because those were the movies we were talking about. The titles we were throwing around was a lot of older stuff because that was what we were into.
Yeah.
So I hit him up, and it became clear pretty quickly that, it's difficult to script a movie like this if you don't have the effects knowledge. Because I would write something that, for all I know, seems really easy.
Yeah.
Next thing we know, that's a massively expensive effect, and you could have just written it this way and saved a ton of money.
Got it.
So I kind of came up with the setup of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he kind of scripted the effects-based back end of it.
Okay.
And then we both kind of worked on either, the other person's half together and like made something cohesive. So we kind of co-wrote it. And his involvement just kind of grew out of, first he's like, oh, this sounds cool. Yeah, I'll do this. And then he started working on it. He's like, well, now I'm kind of invested in this and I think it should go this way. And then he became a writer. And then it's well, you should probably be a producer at this point too. So it just, and then he became a, financially contributing producer and stuff. And he owns part of the film. So we all kind of, the three of us own it.
Awesome.
And yeah, it was just this really kind of fortuitous, coming together of different resources that have accumulated.
About the practical special effects, the one that impressed me the most was when she's got the hatchet and she's standing on the rock and there are all the like tentacle things coming at her.
All that reverse stuff?
Is that how you did it?
That's reverse stuff.
That's what I was assuming it was.
That's just I think latex vines that he made, and we just filmed them in reverse, and you just would do it a lot until it looked right.
Did you play it back in the moment just to make sure, or was it just like, we'll trust that looks good?
Oh, let me think.
Because
we just kind of trusted it, but we knew
what it needed to look like.
Yeah, and we would kind of, do it in forward motion and kind of like study how things moved and talk about like, well, it would probably kind of like first flick and then twirl and then this, and like how we do that. And I want to say that this was a day that Jake was putting makeup on Owen.
Oh, really?
So that sequence originally was a little bit shorter, and we had some time to kill, and we had these vines, and we're like, well, let's just shoot more shit in reverse. And and I think that moment actually is one of the most like, it felt like high school again because we were kind of winging it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of room for winging it on this shoot. But we made some, and I think that sequence is kind of one of the cooler moments of the movie.
It stood out to me. Like I said, that was one of the things that stood out the most. I was like, that's really
it's got
cool.
a cool kind of playfulness to it.
Yeah, and I assumed based on my knowledge of filmmaking, it's like, I bet it's reverse, but it looks great, and that would stress me out so much to just trust it looks good. That would be...
I do think we did offload every night, so we would have at least known by the next day if it looked terrible. Because, we would film all day, and then Carmen, Owen, and Jake would sleep in the cabin, and it was a really, really small cabin. So me and Clayton and our sound recordist, Steven, would drive back into town, which was 20 minutes every night and every morning.
Oh, wow.
And we stayed in a hotel together.
Okay.
Which was
you
valuable
had, like,
too, because we
did you do like
Clayton would offload, exactly, and we would just kind of like reflect on like, okay, what does tomorrow need to be, and we'd regroup because we were kind of the three crew members.
Yeah.
Jake was crew as well, but he was so busy with his own stuff all the time and makeup that we were kind of the technical crew. That's
awesome. That's really great. How many days can I ask? Like, how many days were you guys out there? What was your shoot schedule?
I want to say 13.
Wow. So you shot the whole thing in 13 days.
And then Lynn's cameo, we filmed in Kansas months later.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why that takes place at night.
Okay. I assumed it was just like a 1-day shoot, because obviously getting her on set, I'm sure was...
We still didn't know if we were going to get her when we filmed the movie.
Really?
So we constructed the script in such a way that flashback could just be cut.
It could just be told.
Yeah. And the sequence at the end could be cut. We really didn't want to do it, but we were still talking to her at the time. And Lynn Lowry, if you aren't familiar with her work, she was in a George Romero movie called The Crazies that's got a big cult following. She was in David Cronenberg's first movie called Shivers.
Oh, wow.
And that was why we really wanted her, because I'm a huge Cronenberg fan. This movie's kind of Cronenbergian in many ways, so it just felt very appropriate.
Person turning to a monster. Yeah.
So we were still talking to her at the time.
Wow.
And then we confirmed it shortly after we got back, I want to say. So then we're like, all right, cool, we can do this cameo.
This is happening.
So, yeah, and then we filmed that stuff in Kansas and kind of fudged it to make it cut in.
I mean, it cuts in well.
Yeah. It's dark, so. And, like, things like that, we were like, if there's a rough edge like that, that's what we loved about those movies. Yeah. Occasionally you would be like, oh, this scene looks radically different, like they're trying to pass this off as nighttime when it's clearly not, but I'll go with it because it's like, it's just the aesthetics of those movies from the time. And
yeah, I think that is something that's great about your film, is that you captured an aesthetic very much.
Well, thank you.
I don't watch much like indie horror, but it felt exactly what I perceive is indie horror. So that horror just isn't my genre, but like it felt exactly like what I expected it to be, and that was great.
Well, and there's so many like specific eddies and like niche areas within horror too, and wanting to make something that feels like it came out in 1983 and definitely was in like the cult or bizarre section of your VHS video store rental place. Like that's a really specific audience to hone in on. So, but that's totally what we were into. And I know those people are still out there.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the like practical effects stuff catches some people off guard because they're like, well, this looks dated or this looks cheap.
Yeah.
And there are certainly things where like, if we did that totally digitally, it might be more like appealing to a modern movie palette, but that goes against like the whole heart
of what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of digital effects. Like honestly, anytime a big budget picture uses practicals, it always looks better.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the magic of it too,
Yeah.
right? Like why'd we all show up if we're gonna stand in front of a green thing? Like I thought we were doing, why don't we just film the cool thing? And that was the whole point of this.
Yeah, we're all here to play pretend together.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun if we're in the green suit. It's way more fun if I get a giant sword and you have blood flying out. You know what I mean?
You're gonna make it cool later. Okay, well, I guess so.
I guess I'll pretend it's cool now.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, it works if you have the money to back it up, but like, practical's just got this fun, warm, fuzzy quality to it.
It's got a beautiful feel.
Yeah, even if you don't have a ton of money and your practical effects don't look as great as a maybe digital effect for the same amount of money, like I would still rather see that practical effect. I want to see the light on it as a real thing in the room.
Yes.
And people interacting with it.
I want to be able to touch it. I want to see that it has a weight. Yeah, all of those things. And I love that you guys put it out on VHS. How did that, like, was that a plan from the beginning? Did you know that that was going to be possible even, or?
Well, we knew it was possible, certainly. But I do remember in the very, very early stages when we were talking about what type of movie that would be, that we were like, wouldn't it be really, really cool if someday we could put this out on VHS? Because this is totally a movie that would be on VHS. And that was kind of all it was at first. And then, once it was done and we were, trying to sell it.
Yeah.
The deal that we got with our distributor was not restrictive in the way that we couldn't pull the trigger on something like that. So I talked to my friend Adam Jeffers, who actually did the poster design as well.
Oh, okay.
And he was doing
I also love that poster because it feels
crazy
like that,
talented.
Like, that painted old school poster.
And he did a program in Lawrence for a while called Trash Night at the Bottleneck bar.
Okay.
And it was essentially just like a supercut of 3 movies that had a kind of coherent theme. Like, these are wrestling movies. These are arcade movies. And they're all kind of like 70s, 80s, like cult things you probably hadn't heard of and are kind of like trashy.
Okay.
Trash Night.
Yeah.
So he is getting into releasing movies on limited run VHS.
Weird.
Because
I love that.
Yeah, and there's definitely a market for it. There's a collector's market for it, and this is his first release.
Oh, cool.
So this was kind of his flagship first attempt at putting something out, and I know he's got more in the pipeline, which is really awesome. And yeah, he just did a kick-ass job. It's an amazing little thing. Even if you don't have a VCR, like just keep it on your shelf.
Just have one. Yeah.
Yeah, like we put the care into like he put genre stickers on it and stuff, like Be Kind Rewind and all these things. It's got a plastic slip case on it like you would get from the video store.
That's awesome. And yeah, you have the limited edition lime green ones.
There's some green ones. Yeah, no, it really like, there's been a lot of cool stuff to come from putting this movie out, but holding one of those tapes in my hands might be like the coolest thing, just because that was how I ingested movies for so long. And something about seeing it also in full frame, because it's not in widescreen on this tape. We did a full frame pan and scan transfer of it, or rather Adam did.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really authentically like, looks perfectly like shit. It's it's exactly what I that's my definitive version of it now. Like if I could choose people's way of viewing it from here on out, I would put the tape in their hand.
Are there shots that you feel like are missing things, or that you're like, oh, I'm really sad we lost that bit
From the pan and scan?
Yeah.
Well, Adam did it himself, and he just did a really, really good job of it. So no, like I kind of dig the moments that, because he was really good about building on top of camera movement already did. So say there's a subtle pan left to catch a character's bit of dialogue, he would follow that pan and just go further with it until it filled the frame. So it wasn't just willy-nilly, like he wasn't just chopping the movie up.
Well, yeah.
And mostly it worked out, because the movie's it's not 235, it's not even 185. I think it's just straight up 16:9.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tall.
Yeah.
As is.
I mean, that's incredible. I don't know, it's just cool. That's cool.
It's a ton of fun. I love that tape.
How hard and difficult was it to get? It's Lois Lowry, right?
Lynn Lowry. I didn't hook that up.
And
so
how was
thankfully,
it like? Did you choose Lynn Lowry, and it was Lynn Lowry or bust, or
no? There was never a discussion of anyone else though. She just kind of came into Jake's life. I think he was at, it must have been Monster Palooza, maybe. I don't know. He was at a convention. He goes to conventions a lot to show off makeup stuff.
Oh, okay.
So he's at this horror convention, and he meets her there, and they strike up a friendship. And best I remember the story, he just mentions to her that he's doing pre-production on this monster film. She says, I've always wanted to be in a straight-up monster film with, a full suit and all this stuff. So we just stayed in contact, and she was nice enough to cut us a deal and
that's incredible.
Fly out, yeah. And I mean, I was definitely aware of her prior to this. I'm a big fan of a few movies she's in, particularly Shivers, as I said before. But she was in a movie called I Drink Your Blood that is just totally bonkers, disgusting grindhouse movie. And I definitely knew her from there. So it was really surreal to meet her because, again, I knew her from a period of, like I referenced before, that period in high school where I was ingesting all these horror movies.
Yeah.
So somehow through like revisiting that genre and revisiting that mindset and wanting to make those types of films again, like we summoned Lynn Lowry out, just by, it was really strange, and just kind of happened. It wasn't really something I had to like fight for. Jake was just like, we might be able to do this. And then we did.
What was it
now
like?
She's like a friend.
That's great.
Yeah, she's super awesome.
What was it like working with her?
Oh, she was the best. She just I mean, she is a professional.
Yeah.
So to say like she was a pro is kind of like, well, yeah, she is. And she just had the best stories. She was so sweet.
Because I know that like, if right now I had somebody that like I'd watched their movies as a kid come onto my set, I would just be I would be a nervous wreck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just prone to being a nervous wreck though. What was that like? What was it like for you? I
had my geek out time with her. Well, 2 times. First time was the night she flew in, we took her out to dinner.
Okay.
And at dinner, we just made her uncomfortable by geeking out around her a ton. And we're like, oh, you were in this and you were in this. What was it like to talk to this guy? And what was this like? So we got that out of the way. And then the next day, filming with her was just, it was a breeze.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think she was freaked out by how much Kansans want to eat because we put a lot of food in front of her. I just was really trying to take good care of her. I think we overcompensated on the food.
That's what I do.
It was a good time.
Just on set in general is like
huck food at people.
Yeah, I just have too much food on set. And
dude, that's a great problem to have though, because I mean, you don't want hungry.
Yeah. I don't want people to get hungry and like
you can get angry and
yeah, and I'm usually like asking for favors when I have people on my set.
It's kind of like the least you can do.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Keep them fed.
I'm like, I can give you all of this junk food. Which junk food's your favorite? Take
I respect
all of it. That's about all I've got for you.
That means you know what you're doing.
But that's awesome though. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And you have all sorts of cool merch for Exposure, man. Like the pins and everything. So like, what is Merch Table a website?
That's my day job.
Okay.
Merch Table is a online store for tons of bands, podcasters, comedians. Really,
that's
awesome.
We
do stores for all kinds of people. A lot of people you've probably heard of too.
Is it like print on demand, or is it like they
we do some of that stuff, but
or?
We have a print. We have our own press called Blue Collar Press in Lawrence as well.
Okay.
And that's where I first started working. I was a printer there for many years. So I was printing t-shirts all while I was making Exposure.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved across the street to Merch Table. So now I'm doing product photography over there. And yeah, we just have tons of stores, tons of cool stuff. And I happen to have access to lots of resources for making merch.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do it. It's kind of fun.
And so you were like, all right, guys.
And horror fans love stuff,
yeah.
So I like to make really cool stuff that we can throw at them at like conventions. And those pins were pretty popular.
Yeah. I mean, the pins are awesome. I love the foreign shirt that's not foreign. Cats are the worst.
You got a cat on the table here.
He's here every podcast.
Which cat is this?
That's Dick Grayson.
Oh, okay.
He's now the biggest cat, which is kind of funny.
He's pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, he's gorgeous. But no, yeah, your merch is incredible. I've been like looking at it, like we need merch. We have no IX has no merch. We've got nothing right now, and it drives me nuts.
No, merch is fun.
Yeah, but so is the website run by them or is that by you? The Merch Table website?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole team of us.
Okay.
So I'm just doing a lot of the design work and
but like for
product photography. And
for a normal like client, is it done by? I'm sorry that I'm no towards Merch Table.
Totally
I just think
cool.
it's a really cool thing for artists.
It is a really cool thing for artists. They should have stores with us.
Yeah.
It's about. Let me count. There's about 5 of us. And then another, if you count customer service as part of that, there's 6 of us in the office that run the stores, all of them. So
okay,
over 100.
But you run like every little store, and you guys ship the orders and everything. Or?
Oh yeah, that's a kind of separate department. But yeah, we have a factory floor where we store all the merch, and
that's incredible.
Yeah,
so that's the dream. That's the goal, man. Because I don't want to have, and I've been like thinking about merch for a long time, and it's like always been hard to decide how to do it, how to start it, because I don't want to have this room full of boxes of shit that I have to
No, it really helps to not have to fulfill the orders myself.
Yeah.
And if you're an indie filmmaker, you're probably already doing 50 other things.
I already have 100 other jobs.
Yeah. You don't want to add, warehouse manager on top of that as well.
Exactly.
Fulfillment center or anything.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at, is I'm trying to struggle with the fact that I don't want to be my own distributor.
But you also want to tap, people who want to help you and financially support you by buying cool stuff. But like at the same time, that brings another burden onto you to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a double-edged sword of like, well, if I had a merch website, I could make money possibly from people that like want to support me and are interested in my product, like my films or whatever. But then I'm adding another job to myself to make money, but is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah. So, Exposure is now picked up by Showtime, right? Is it?
Yeah, we have an 18-month deal with them, so that's still
That's
playing
incredible.
on the networks currently, and it's on the streaming app. And
Yeah,
it's
I watched it on Hulu. It was awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you have the Showtime add-in thing?
I added in just to watch exposure. I'll
Oh
be
really?
honest.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I didn't know that Hulu had that option till a little bit ago. So we're also on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Well, because on Amazon Prime now, it wants you to watch it through Showtime.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's not Prime. I know
Oh,
that.
okay.
You do have to just like straight
Rent or
up buy
buy.
it, rent or buy.
Got it.
And then there's the tapes. We're working on DVDs, so that's
awesome.
forthcoming.
Is that through other distributor, or is that you guys are?
That's with the same people we've been working with.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we signed a deal with one company, All Channel Films.
Awesome. Are they based out of LA or?
Yeah, they're in Los Angeles.
That's great. That's awesome. And they've pretty much done all the distributing, and you guys worry very little. Is that, or is it? How much does it put onto you?
That was really funny. No, they do a ton of work for us. First of all, I don't mean to imply by laughing that like,
yeah,
this is falling on us, because our representation there is awesome.
I mean, advertising, I'm sure, is mostly you guys, and like.
I mean, yeah, they want you to promote yourself.
Yeah.
But
well, that's because I mean, your people are the people who are
they
going to want to watch
they do the
it
important
more than-
stuff that I have no idea how to.
Yeah.
You know, they've got connections I will never have. But
Yeah.
It's not ever them that is difficult. Just meeting standards of networks was difficult just because we never had to do it before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've been looking into like getting one of our films on Prime and meeting all the little, getting all those boxes checked. You're like, wow, there's.
Oh, dude, Showtime though.
Oh, I'm sure.
It like Prime was, or not Prime, excuse me, regular Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
That was relatively simple. Showtime really has some stipulations, man.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that again, we'd never done it before, so I didn't know going into it. Like on the next film, there's so many things that I'm gonna do
what are some
differently
things
from
I
like
should
the
be
very
prepping
beginning.
right now?
I
What's the stuff I fucked up on already?
I have a bad habit, or I did when I was still editing my stuff. That's the other thing. I didn't edit exposure. It's the first time I've directed and not edited.
How was that experience?
Great. I get in my own way. Like I'm too precious about my shots.
Yeah.
I think the movie's better for someone else cutting my material together.
Yeah.
And also by the time, you know, when you direct, you're heavily involved in pre-production, and then obviously you're running the show when you're filming it. And if you're your own DP the way I am, I mean, I was just exhausted by the time it's time to cut it. Like I should not be the guy to do that. Someone with some fresh eyes and energy should be the dude.
Yeah.
It also helps that Clayton, the producer, and the guy I mentioned earlier I'm business partners with, he is an editor for Polygon in New York,
okay.
Video game review website. And he wanted to have some more interesting stuff on his reel. So this was also just like a very expensive demo reel project for that guy. But, oh, I dropped something. I've totally forgot where I was going with that, though.
We were talking about editing your own film.
Yeah.
Which came in through what you need to be on a
I had the bad habit of putting all my audio tracks together too soon.
Okay.
I was not expecting people to request so much of my movie in pieces.
Really?
I figured once I've mastered it and put it all together and like here it is, like I was like, I'll just hand you a QuickTime file, right? And we're done. No, they have their own, you know, mastering processes they want to put it through to get it television ready. And stuff. So, and that's just something none of us thought that was going to be a thing at all.
Yeah.
Like, we were all like, wouldn't it be crazy if we sold this to anybody, let alone like, you know.
Yeah.
So, we just kind of got caught off guard by
Needing
some of the
that
technical
kind of
things.
stuff.
Yeah, and next time around, hopefully won't be caught off guard so much.
Yeah. That's something that I want to play with more in this next cut of our next movie, because I've never played with like surround sound before. And I'd like to
Do you have
dabble in
someone who masters your stuff outside of house?
No. I don't have anyone that does anything. This is everything you see
This
is
is
done
it.
by me, Lolo, or a third person, Amber Joy. And I love all three of us. Obviously, I love myself, but I love the two of them.
Is that an actual
It's
Lowell
insane.
kit behind you and an Airy kit?
Uh,
Or just the cases?
this is a Lowell kit. The Airy kit's a case full of other junk.
Right on.
A friend of mine, the case kind of broke, and he was like, "I don't want this case anymore. Do you need a case?" And I was like,
Those are good cases.
"Fuck yeah, I'd love a case."
What's in the Lowell kit?
We'll
We'll play a game here.
Some really garbage lights, like little like LED panel.
Oh,
lights.
those ones?
I've got like 4 of those.
Are they Lowell?
I think they might be.
Okay.
I don't remember.
I kind of love Lowell lights.
Yeah?
We filmed exposure with Lowell lights.
Yeah, LED or like
No, they were
full
tungsten. But
yeah.
we used Lowell's instead of Airy Fresnels because that cabin was so small that fitting something the size of a coffee can as opposed to, something a quarter of that size, we just went with the Lowell's. We used a lot of the Omni lights, the ones that are like, I don't know, they're probably like 8-inch square.
I don't.
This is what I nerd about. So yeah, right down to like our choices in lights. We're like, this place is so tiny. Like we have to make as much use of the space as we can.
Yeah, these lights were super cheap. I bought them off the IFC when they decided they thought about throwing them away.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just 2 giant Lowell 1K Fresnels.
Oh, okay.
And they will burn a hole in something. if
Yeah,
you put
absolutely.
It too close.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they get hot.
I like that smell though. I really do. Like I'm not a big fan of LED lights for movie lighting.
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of don't have any personality. They're a little flat.
I dig that.
And I really like Fresnels. I like something with a lens on it that like.
I love the look of a Fresnel. Sometimes I don't love putting a Fresnel in a room like this size.
Oh no!
Sometimes I'm shooting in.
You'll be toasty, but like you're supposed to suffer a little bit for movies, right?
Yeah.
And
if you're not suffering,
that burning
you're not...
smell though is what I was getting at. That's what movie lights smell like to me. That's movies. That's filmmaking. It smells like burning.
If it's not on fire, you're not making a movie.
Yeah, right. I actually have a little bit of cooked gel as a keepsake from exposure because the ending of that movie is so colorful. There's just so much like blue and green.
Yeah.
And purple. And I have a just as a keepsake, like a little shredded bit of green gel that melted because we had it on the light for too long.
We've got like things like that for like each of our each film. We've got like one like broken prop or something that we've like kept and we put them on a shelf like up in the office. And it's just like, this is the one thing.
Keepsakes.
Yeah.
I got a couple others from exposure. One of them's kind of inappropriate, but those are the best kinds.
Is it one of the like the props that looks kind of like a penis?
No, I mean we still got those. I mean Jake has that. I'm sure. I think it's proudly on display in his shop. No, we went to a bar in the tiny mountain mining town where we filmed it. Once we finished filming, we all went to this saloon, and the men's restroom had one of those vending machine things.
Oh.
For like condoms and stuff.
Yeah.
But there were no condoms in it. There was just an assortment of cock rings.
Weird.
Yeah, just like that's it. Like
but
you
need
condoms?
the condom still.
Yeah, so I bought one of those, and that's
to
one of my
always
keepsakes.
remember exposure by.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now
Can I say cock ring on your podcast? I don't know.
Yeah, you can say cock ring. Oh man. So now that it's done, it's sold. That's obviously like a huge thing. You're obviously promoting it. You're doing all that work for exposure. But what are you doing next? Like, are you already working on the next project? Is that already?
Yeah, I'm
writing it right now.
Putting the finishing touches on a script right now.
Awesome. Is that you and the 2 other guys doing it together?
This
or
one's
is it,
just me.
Just you.
Yeah, this is kind of an idea I had that I got obsessed with, and I think the other 2. Jake is doing his own short film right now that looks really cool. And then I know he has plans to make a feature himself because he's also a pretty talented director.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of off doing that right now. I think Clayton is just kind of resting from all the work that this has been, and I'm just off writing this thing, and I'm pretty sure I can will it into existence on my own. But
awesome.
I'm sure we'll get Jake in there to do some effects for it because it's another horror
Is another
film.
yeah, cool.
But I would love to film it next summer. It's contingent on a couple very key
Like
locations.
2019 or 2020?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to get on this.
We're at this summer at that point. It's
Oh yeah, I
winter
guess
now.
so. Yeah, no, yeah, this coming summer. Yep.
Did I just give you a bit of a panic attack? Or you?
I hate winter,
I'm
man.
sorry.
It's a bummer.
Me too.
Like waking up and it's dark and then working and then leaving and it's dark is just that sucks.
Yes.
Especially if you have dogs.
Yeah.
Like, I want to walk my dogs, but it's a nightmare out there.
It's dark and it's cold and he doesn't want to be outside either.
No.
It's garbage. It's total. Every year, me and Lolo talk about how we'd like to, by next fall, have moved somewhere warm.
Yeah.
And it's been 5 years we've said
Where
it.
do you,
but,
eyes on anywhere in particular? Or?
I mean, technically, like LA is where you're supposed to be, right? Isn't that?
That's what they say.
That's
yeah.
that's what I'm told. So
Yeah.
like, there's that idea, but I'd go anywhere really if
Just
someone
warmer than here.
warmer than here.
Yeah. Kansas winters are.
And I really don't want to like move out of Kansas City, especially because like it's been so open and welcoming to me making movies. Which is it's insane that I've made movies. It's nonsensical that I've been able to make one movie, let alone the 5, 6 almost movies I've made.
And it's weird when people show up to help, isn't it? That
It's-
always blows my mind.
it's
Like,
stupid.
what are you all doing here?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so dumb that anyone would help me make a movie, or want to be in my movie, and I guarantee it would be much more difficult in LA. No one is going to want to make my movie for the cool junk food I have at craft services.
well,
in
or
LA.
if they will, I imagine you're among a sea of like you just kind of lose the unique element of it because that's kind of what everyone
Yeah.
is doing. I'm just imagining because I don't know because I don't go
Well,
out there.
I've never been.
Yeah, I went when I was very young, and still from that one trip, I think I'm still more of an East Coast guy. I think I
Yeah.
like New York and stuff.
I've got I know a guy. I almost said I've got a buddy. I know a guy is the better way to put it. He was a filmmaker in Kansas City. He made a pretty successful-ish, like he sold his movie and it was on Netflix for a time. And then he moved out to LA. Since then, he has directed some commercials, mostly crewed as a cameraman on on a lot of commercials. Is how he makes his money. He hasn't been able to make another film, and he came back and was talking at a film festival about in Kansas City. And this is my favorite little anecdote to ever say to anyone, but he was talking how in Kansas City, if you walk up to a house and you're like, "Hey, I'm a local filmmaker. I think your house is really pretty. I'd love to film here." They're like, "Oh, when would you like to come over? How many people are coming? We'll cook you dinner.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this."
How interesting! This has never happened to me before.
Yeah, if you do it in LA, they're like, "All right, that'd be $10,000,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "Well, no, but I don't have any money." Well, that's $11,000. It's just me and one other guy, $12,000, and like every
getting worse.
sentence, every sentence you give them, it gets worse and worse. So it just makes it impossible
they know.
to make. Yeah,
And they're living in a town full of those people who've probably scuffed up their floors or something more in the past.
yeah, or like it's either they're afraid it's porn,
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yeah,
or they
forgot about porn.
Oh
That's,
yeah, or they assume you've got the budget,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't have the budget. I'll tell you, it's not here. You can try and rob me for it.
Yeah, I think it's really kind of like depends on what are you trying to get out of this. Like,
Yeah.
I never feel a pull to go out there. I think most of any benefit that would come of that can be done through email now, probably.
That makes sense.
Or at least as far along as I've gotten. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you've sold your film without having
look,
to be
if
out
someone
there. So
if someone important out there is like, you need to move out here to keep doing this, I would be like, all right, but that's just not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that you can totally, you can do your own thing without necessarily having to be out there. And I just never like that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, this is a thing that happens a lot, and I'm sure you get this a lot too. And it's very well intentioned, but like it's also, I'm sure, a little irritating for you as it is for me. You know, when people are like, find out you make movies, and it's now suddenly it's like, oh, you're gonna be like Spielberg, or you're gonna go to Hollywood, you're gonna. there are so many types of success for
Yeah.
this, you know, or types of like avenues you can go. Like it's really not all just like, well, I'm going to the Hollywood to make the one types of movies, and
Yes.
especially now that there is VOD and it's so easily accessible, like who's to say you need to be any particular place to do any of this? 'Cause
Yeah.
I think we can all kind of open our own
The world
doors.
has gotten a lot smaller because of the internet in a way. Like you can access anyone almost by tweeting at them or by emailing them. Like everyone is reachable and you can gain a following just from your bedroom. Like you don't need to go to LA.
Yeah,
That
I
is
don't think I
why
need a lot at any point either, too. Like
Yeah.
any of the like structural reasons for why you might want to do it don't apply to me either. Or
Yeah.
so
But yeah, like I think that's why I'm not in LA right now. Is every year I'm like, I'm gonna go somewhere warmer someday, and that I know I don't want to go out there unless I get that call that's, hey, we want you in LA.
and you would have to be
'Cause-
like actively pursuing
Yeah, that call.
getting that type of call.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I just don't know if I really give a shit about that type
Yeah.
of call. I don't think that's how it's gonna come to me if it comes to me.
Yeah,
I'm much more interested in kind of sticking to my guns as to just the type of stuff I want to make.
yeah. You want to keep making your
Yeah, and
strange
and I
horror
think-
film that no one's making.
Yeah, exactly. Your dated, weird things that don't fit in anymore. Yeah, no,
But that's perfect because it is it's its own thing.
and there's an audience for everything.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think maybe specificity is like the key.
Yeah.
and it's not so much about like where you're working from anymore.
that's really sensical. And with that, so with the idea that horror is your niche, and where exposure fits, I think it has gotten you a lot of publicity in ways from like I've seen a million posts about it being reviewed in magazines,
Oh yeah, that's been
And
fun.
all sorts of like horror, because there is a horror
It's fun to
world
get
that
negative reviews. That's a whole new world. For
I was
me.
gonna ask about that. I was
Yeah,
gonna
because
ask
they.
about.
I mean, we've got a few of them because it is so like particular in a
Yeah.
certain type of thing. I mean, I was expecting it to not.
It's not going to be everyone's favorite
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, and honestly, like they've. I this might sound like posturing, but like I really don't care. Like it's super awesome.
I think that's a great place for you to
that
be.
anyone would write anything at all. Like any reaction I've had to a negative review has kind of just been like, someone watched the movie and wrote about it. Like,
Yeah.
they sat down and like committed time to write about it. That's crazy. And they don't know me, so they aren't being nice to me, which is also great. Like, because I
Yeah.
kind of like, when you work at the local level, I mean, people are still honest with you and nice and stuff, but like it is hard to break through to a place where you're getting completely unfiltered outside opinion from someone who's never seen your face and doesn't give a crap about you.
Yeah.
And that's like really valuable to read that stuff. And I liked all of it. Like
That's awesome.
So, and a lot of the stuff that they point out, like, I'm like, well, yeah, I agree, because we had so little money, it's like, this movie looks
Yeah.
cheap, and it's like, yeah,
It was.
it was
It
cheap.
was very
That's-
cheap.
That's why it looks that way.
Would you like to see the receipts?
yeah.
It's incredible how.
Yeah. So, I'd take all that in stride. And then there are good reviews too.
Yeah.
And there are people who kind of get like where we were aiming and the type of movie it is. So not to make it sound like everyone's just like shitting on it, because there are a lot of very kind reviews out there.
No, but like the bad reviews are what's going to stick out.
And that's the other thing about horror too. And this came up when we were deciding on horror in the very
Yeah.
early stages, is that low budget is forgiven and like problems are forgiven. It's kind of part of it. Like being bad is kind of like, well, now you're just notorious because
Yeah.
have you seen this crazy movie that kind of sucks? And I'm not saying that's our film. I don't think my film sucks.
It
But-
is a genre of horror though.
Yeah, and there's just kind of more forgiving nature about your low
yeah.
budget, rough around the corner stuff.
Yeah, there's a fan base for that, and they've got a different mentality about it. That's something that I feel like I butt up against constantly, being an indie comedy filmmaker. No one's looking for the comedian no one's heard of.
Yeah, no, I was gonna
But-
use that example myself, but I didn't want to like insult you personally.
you
'cause
you can
I'm
do
all
it.
about it, but like it is true that like if you put like this is a low budget piece of shit like type grimy horror movie, and this is a low budget period drama, which do you think is gonna maybe be more fun, even if it sucks? You
Yeah.
know, like at least one of them's probably gonna like have some slime in it and something, and it's gonna be goofy looking.
Yeah.
So it was kind of we love those movies, but also we're like, oh, we can maybe kind of play it safe if we totally fall on our face, because people will enjoy watching us fall on our face.
Yeah, because like there is, not to attack your own film, but like there is not much of a market for a film like Dust, Blood, and Fire.
No.
Made by someone
I
like
agree.
you and me.
I don't know if I'm particularly interested in rewatching it. So,
But there is a market for exposure, and you're
apparently,
leaning into it. That's great.
yeah.
So I'm just curious, and with some of the bad reviews, I haven't really read them. I don't know what they're saying, but I have my own questions about the movie.
Yeah. Bring
I've
it on.
got just a handful of questions. So the voices in the forest that she's hearing, where are they coming from? What is that?
That is that's Lynn's voice, first of all. So
Oh, is it?
the implication is that
So it's her ghost. Am I right?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
There is I get where you're driving at here, and that there's just kind of a general vagueness as to the source of things.
Yes.
That was intentional.
Okay.
There was a draft of the script where it was far less vague,
Got it.
and suddenly we're like, this is just like a paragraph of a monster explaining why he's a monster. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know if anyone really cares, and I think we opted to stick with, if we were just in this moment with her, our lead actress, what she's going through, experiencing this, you're given as many answers as she's given.
That's true.
And it's kind of left up to like there's a general evil, the nature seems to be haunted, but kind of just left at that.
Yeah.
In a way that a lot of those films would be kind of intentionally vague. So we just didn't want to have a monster deliver a expository soliloquy about where he came from.
I kind of, and that's where I was thinking it was like kind of a ghost thing, obviously not like a time travel thing, which she experiences the death of Lynn.
Well, we lean on that opening. I don't know if you remember this or not. At the very beginning, right before the movie starts, there's an Emily Dickinson quote. That says, "Nature is a haunted house." It's all the tagline of the film. We were fairly confident, like, oh, well, that kind of just, now you know. Like, this is the plot of the film. Like, nature is haunted by this
stuff.
This malevolence.
Yeah.
That manifests in a thing that kind of looks like nature because it's tree-like, and there's
So that was
like,
the goal on him, is he looks like he's kind of a tree.
it's like fleshy tree
Stone.
material and stone and things that look natural but have a fleshiness to them. They look like they were maybe kind of like tumors that were regurgitated from the earth that look like they're from it, but not entirely like healthy elements of it. Like the thing he pulls out of the lake.
shit.
Yeah, it's the nasty stuff. And
The penis fish thing.
yeah, that penis fish thing. Which that was another. I didn't know that was coming until he showed it to me in his shop, and I was like, man, like I don't know. That looks a lot like a penis.
I loved.
And now I'm so glad that we went for it.
I loved the penis fish.
It needs it.
That's like one of my favorite bits.
Yeah,
'cause
you
it's just-
can't.
It's perfect. That genre of horror.
You can't make that type of movie and not deliver a few just like
It's
really.
like the fact that the alien in Alien is a giant fucking dick.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's just a dick that has another dick that comes out
and
of him.
the force is trying to make more of itself. At the end, it says like we must propagate, and that's what you're here for. And he makes some nasty implications towards her.
Yeah.
So that's why there are sex organs hidden in
throughout the film.
Because also like the chest is very vaginal.
Oh yes.
Very Cronenbergian as well. So yeah, there is a mission that this thing is on.
Yeah.
It's not like super explicitly laid out, but I think enough pieces are there that like it's kind of more about the ride, and if you want tons of answers, we thought this was something we talked about on set. We were like, the sequel, if we ever did a sequel, we would do that thing horror movies do where like we're going to over explain the shit out of it in the sequel. And like there's going to be tons of these tree monsters. There's going to be a military, like it's going to be like a
So
totally
it's Alien
different...
2.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's going to
That's
just
perfect.
It's going to be too much,
Yeah.
you know? Because the first one
The first
is so
one, there's
little.
one,
Yeah.
and then exposures, there's
Yeah,
like
exposures.
100 of them. And there's a military force fighting them, and it's just them being shot by AKs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And
It's
we'll
perfect.
tell you just like exactly where they came from. Who gives a shit? Like,
Yeah, we'll give you the planet they came
Yeah.
from. Yeah. And I've got one other like plot question that just is bugging my
for sure.
brain, and that is the green mist that he walks out into.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wasn't turning into the monster or a part of the monster stuff until he got bit by the penis fish.
But he's being kind of courted by it.
Okay.
Is kind of how we described it.
Got it.
These voices kind of call to you.
Because like obviously they called to his grandfather, and like
Mm-hmm.
I liked that element of like the past returning and kind of the
But
cycle continuing.
we wanted there to be an actual physical moment where he has to be like, because again, this is a very kind of a lot of sexual imagery and overt tones going on here. We wanted there to be a actual moment of like blood letting and contact before the transformation would begin, like the actual contracting of a disease. Like you can kind of hear things and be tempted by them, and it pulls your personality in certain ways with this like mist in the trees or voices in the trees. Makes you a little more hot tempered, you know, brings out your bad side. But it's got to like nick you to start doing its work because it's kind of venereal.
Got it. Cool. Well, I appreciate those.
Yeah. And these are all things that, again, like we had definitely discussions about, like how much do we want to say this?
I love that you know why it's all there.
You gotta have a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky when you're doing something like this as to like how much you want to give away before you're like over explaining, and like does this feel like we're just like, you know, again, listening to the bad guy explain himself.
I mean,
we've and at the end we always came back around to like this is more of an emotional horror story, and the why seemed a little more relevant. We were trying to tell something that maybe felt more like a fable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I love that you know all those answers, because I feel like there are a lot of times where you'll talk to an artist and be like, so why was that a piece? Like the piece that doesn't make sense. And they're like, oh, well, it just like was a cool thing we thought of, or you know what I mean? Like, but I like that.
And I'll defend like strokes of inspiration where you just want to do something just because you want to do it. But you should, you know, be able to back up.
I like that your whole story was, thought out though.
And you do bring up a point though that like it's really difficult, and I'm sure you bumped into this before, telling a long story like that, a feature-length story. There's so many parts, and if you change one little, like boop, you take that little part out, this cascading thing happens where suddenly this other stuff starts to not make sense, or something feels unbalanced. So, and that happened really quick when we were trying to figure out like how much of this
should be
explaining do we want to do. And you know, I like where we landed. Also, full disclosure, a lot of that too is just we shot all the time we had. You know? And also, since there were so many effects shots, it made it really difficult to just be like, well, what if we just on the day of to be like, what if we just did like this little bit of film? Like, we'd be like, well, that's going to require like
all these
parts, and we had to, you know, it had to be planned very tightly.
Was there much cut from the film? Just out of
no, like every shot is
in the movie.
In it. Yeah.
Wow.
Because again, I mean, we're still really low budget, so shelling out for that location was like, you know,
if we're gonna
get your money,
shoot it, better be in the movie. I better see every bit of that location.
Yeah, a little bit, and I feel like a lot of that editing, I mean, it was done at the script stage because we just knew like, we can't just be
shooting willy-nilly.
Figuring it out while we're there.
That makes sense. Did you work much of it before you went out there with your actors, or was there a rehearsal process to it?
No, there was not. Which is crazy to think about now, actually. hadn't even occurred to me at the time. I think we were all just so concerned about the logistics of it that we were like, well, yeah, you guys will act when we get up there. I assume that's a given. We'll point the cameras at you and you guys will act. But yeah, we probably could have benefited from that, other than that I think at the time Owen might have been living in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I think. So that would have been
difficult. Hard.
Yeah, since there's only the two people. But yeah, no rehearsals or anything. Just a lot of stressing about effects and building effects, and which was fun too.
Yeah.
This dude Jake, he has a shop in his garage, and we would just pull like late nights together sometimes. He pulled them a lot more than I did, but sometimes he'd have me come in and assist, and it was fun to be able to my hands were on those too when we were building them, so I feel
like they're your children.
A little bit.
You
yeah.
built.
They're totally Jake's children, but I was in the room when it came out.
So you're like the father in this situation.
Yeah, I'm the godfather. He's the real father.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, man. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
There you go, Austin Snell. His film Exposure is available right now. You can stream it, or you can even purchase an exclusive VHS copy from his website, sunrunnerfilms.merchtable.com. You can follow Austin on Facebook by liking Sunrunner Films LLC or the Exposure page on Facebook. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast.